Thank you very much. I wanted to get into some statistics which are interesting, and they're related to the new DA in San Francisco, who was on our show, you'll recall. Speaking of recall, I mean, it was during the recall.
Yeah.
She was on before the recall, then she was on after the recall.
That's Brooke Jenkins, right?
Yeah, Brooke Jenkins. And the Brooke Jenkins statistics are crime statistics under her reign. She's only been in since July. They're pretty impressive if you're looking at the way that criminal cases are handled from the DA's office. I feel as though it is something that we should put into Law and Disorder. I'm looking around for the... yeah, I think we can do it, though.
In the criminal justice system, the people...
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
...are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
It's just that the data out of the DA's office suggests that things are happening quickly in terms of criminal prosecution efforts and where people are ending up who are in the San Francisco courts. I mention this because you'll remember Chesa Boudin was this progressive figure, and is a progressive figure. When he was DA, very controversial progressive figure. The idea was that San Francisco was beset by smash and grabs, drug issues, I mean, even violent crimes, and not enough was being done. When it comes to drug crimes, charging and conviction rates have climbed sharply. While the changes between two district attorneys are in part driven by their policies, they're also impossible to disentangle from the COVID-19 pandemic's impact, they're saying. This is a new piece in the Chronicle that kind of tracks all of the statistics. Crime patterns shifted. Social distancing measures forced a dramatic reduction in the jail population. And the Superior Court mostly stopped holding criminal trials. That caused a backlog, hundreds of names long. Crime in the city has mostly reverted to pre-pandemic trends, but the low jail population and massive backlog, nearly 1,000 cases that went past their original trial deadlines, they've now persisted. So they're still backlogged, in other words. After hitting lows near 25% in late 2021 and early 2022, their share of criminal cases ending in a jail or prison sentence began climbing following Jenkins' appointment, hitting nearly 50% in March, more than any month since April 2020. Charging and conviction rates have gone up for felony cases overall, while diversion rates, and this is key because you remember one of the controversial aspects of Chesa Boudin's reign was this diversion program. Right? People weren't going to prison. They were getting this diversion program enrollment. Diversion rates, the share of cases resolved through programs serving as alternatives to jail or prison time, those cases are down. That's less diversion, more prison, okay? Despite these shifts, the city's jail population hasn't ballooned under Jenkins. It hovers around 800 people, which is about what it was with Boudin. That's below its pre-pandemic average of nearly 1,300. Jenkins is saying under her leadership, attorneys have become more thoughtful about who they let participate in diversion programs. Quote, if you're a first-time nonviolent offender, sure, diversion might be appropriate for you. If this is your fifth or sixth time around the bend, then we need to be arguing for something different, she said. I mean, that was really a cornerstone of what was talked about in the recall, right? You're not being tough enough on repeat offenders. Jenkins saying that her higher charging rates for felony cases likely stem from an increase in chargeable cases presented to her office. She said the cops had been presenting more arrests with better quality evidence since she took over. Jenkins' felony charging rates in her first 3 quarters were higher than Boudin's in every quarter but his last. The truth is that you can tell there's a new chief in town, right? So if you were progressively minded when it came to law enforcement, you felt that these diversion programs should be the reflexive place where many offenders end up, then you're not happy. But if you felt as though San Francisco was a place that was being too easy on these felonious offenders, yeah, you're happy. Your day has come. San Francisco has a robust network of diversion programs, and it has a history of using those diversion programs since the 1970s. So the jury's still out, if you'll pardon the expression, on whether diversion programs are really effective or not. And the statistics can be sort of jimmied to show anything you want. But it suggested that the effects of a diversion program were strongest with people charged with drug offenses. Jenkins says she believes Boudin's office was allowing some people to take advantage of diversion by participating in that program, getting released, and heading straight back to the streets to sell harmful drugs like fentanyl. She says what's going on right now are people selling death. We have to take this more seriously. So the tug of war between those who want diversion and those who want jail, that's going on in San Francisco right now. But if you just look at the statistics, because Jenkins is saying, hey, you guys have defaulted to diversion too many times. Essentially, that's what she's saying. She's all for diversion if it makes sense, but she's not for diversion if it's with somebody who's a repeat offender or a violent offender. The QAnon Shaman, the face-painted, horn-wearing QAnon Shaman has been released.
What?
Yes, I mean, exactly.
What?
I know.
How long was his sentence?
Well, this is a very good question, and I'm going to give you a very good answer. He was sentenced in November of 2021 to more than 3 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to obstruction of an official proceeding in Congress. There he is. He faced a statutory maximum of 20 years in prison, you'll remember. Benjamin Ocone, who's a spokesperson for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, said that he was transferred on Monday to community confinement overseeing by the Bureau's Phoenix Residential Reentry Management Program. That means that he's either in home confinement or a residential reentry center, Kim. He's no longer in prison. His projected release date from custody is May 25th, 2023. So that's May of this year, just in time to join Donald Trump on the road and be part of the January 6th celebration.
The world feels so much safer with him out of prison.
After serving only 11 months in solitary prior to his sentence. Well, by the way, 11 months in solitary shouldn't have an only in front of it. That's a long time in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement, as you are probably aware, is spoken of often as torture. I mean, literally as torture. Anyway, this guy was in it for almost a year. That was prior to his sentence being imposed. Then 16 months of his sentence after that. So they're saying, hey, the guy served enough, and now he's out, as we say, being released into either some kind of halfway house or in some kind of home program, where they monitor you with an ankle brace. 16 crew on a Danish oil tanker have been locked in the ship's safe room for 5 days. They were boarded by pirates in the most dangerous shipping lane in the world. Yeah, this is Captain Phillips stuff, right? We had Billy Ray on yesterday who wrote the movie. All 16 crew members sought refuge in a safe room aboard the Monjasa Reformer. The oil tanker was boarded by 5 pirates near Port Pont Noir in the Republic of Congo, near the Republic of Congo. Communication was lost with the tanker after it was boarded by these 5 armed pirates in the Gulf of Guinea off the coast of West Africa. All 16 crews sought refuge in a safe room aboard the ship. The Liberian-flagged oil and chemical tanker was boarded by the 5 pirates around 140 miles west of the Republic of Congo's port. Wow. That is a scary situation, right? Meanwhile, back here in Iowa, in Law and Disorder, an Iowa teen flips on a classmate and agrees to testify against him at the trial after they, and you'll remember this case, we talked about it, they beat their Spanish teacher to death over a bad grade. I know, it's ugly, but sometimes life is ugly. Jeremy Goodale and Willard Miller are both charged with murder in Iowa. Prosecutors say they murdered their high school Spanish teacher, Nohema Graber, 66 years old. Imagine that. Now, Goodale is slated to testify against Miller. He's flipping. And Russian security forces have announced they've arrested an American Wall Street Journal reporter. They've arrested him on a spying charge. This is the first time a U.S. correspondent has been detained on spying accusations since the Cold War. The newspaper, of course, is denying the allegations that he was a spy and demanding his immediate release. This is all as the frosty relations between the U.S. and Russia continue. I don't need to tell you what's happened with the Belarusians. They've now essentially set up a staging ground for nuclear weaponry to be placed there. The Russians are definitely upping the ante. In the Dominion voting lawsuit, emails after the 2020 election show that Fox's own brain room, it was essentially a group of people who were looking over the data on the election, concluded that the voting myths about Dominion were false. They literally met to go, we're saying this stuff on the air about Dominion and about their computers flipping votes to Biden. Let's see if this is true. And 10 days after the 2020 election, Fox News' so-called brain room looked into conspiracy theories that Dominion was involved in this. The fact-checking and research division of the network came back with a clear decision. The claims that Dominion was flipping votes were false. But the misinformation went on the air anyway. This is new in that continuing trial that goes on against Fox News, seeking damages for the reputational damage they did to Dominion voting
My
systems.
bad. I'm sorry.
That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Yeah, and, on the whole issue of guns and what happened in Tennessee, I did a whole run on it yesterday, how they're making the gun laws in Tennessee even looser than they are. There are very few restrictions on gun ownership, but they're making them even looser. You can find it in yesterday's show, or you can just Google it on your own, and you can see that they're lowering the age at which you can buy a gun. You don't need it permitted. You don't need any training. It's pretty crazy.
Google it.
It's pretty awful. So that's happened. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.